And so as we said before, basically, though we believe in a designer, we believe that the world isn't just by chance, and you've got all these things that would seem to imply a design and a designer, and it's so well made, it's all well synced together. And then they say, well, what about the things that go wrong? And we say, well, you know, Genesis 3, that's where God says things are going to go wrong. And so we've got answers for that, whereas they say, no, it just happens. And they've got to, really basically, that's their equation for life. If you get enough time and enough probability or chance, then obviously life will appear from nothing, basically.
You get somebody out of the Flintstones.
Yes, that's an argument. This here deal with time, the scientific name for the time is the law of uniformitarianism. Okay? Basically that means, for example, you can walk into a cave and you see stalagmites and stalagmites. Yeah. And you see them growing, for example, 1 inch every 10 years. So you look at it and it's 10 foot tall, and you think, well, if it's growing 1 inch every 10 years, therefore it must be. That's right. The only problem is, the law of uniformitarianism says it is always grown at that level, at that speed. Now, reality is that yes, that's the assumption. And remember, if you remember, I know you laughed at it right at the beginning, but I actually said right at the beginning, I said, everything that we believe and understand is based on certain assumptions. The major difference is which assumptions are more reasonable and more logical to come to the conclusion we come to. Now, for us, when we look at some of this kind of stuff, it's so unbelievable, it takes so much faith to believe it, that for us, we say it's a lot simpler to believe in God, because it seems more obvious that there's intelligence behind the universe than it is that everything complex just happened over a long period of time by chance, okay? And we keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the equations.
They always fire at us. Where did God?
That's not a problem. That's not a problem. That's not a problem, because they will say, where did the Big Bang come from? What bang? Both assume that in the beginning something. And if you remember again from the last time I spoke, we talked in terms of when you see an effect, there's going to be a big enough cause to make that effect. So you see, if you're looking at your window and all of a sudden there's a ball rolls across the field of your vision, then you don't think, wow, isn't that ball magic, motorised by whatever. You think some kid's out there playing football in my front garden, you know, or you assume a big wind maybe. But there's some bigger cause that's come along, and that's why the ball's moving. It didn't just happen to move by itself. Now their argument is the ball moved by itself. You know, that's basically what you got. So there's lots of stuff involved in that. Now, when we talk about evolution, everybody believes in evolution, because, well, I'll show you how that works. Okay. There's a distinction. There's a theory which states that many living animals can be observed over the course of time, there's your big time, that undergo changes that new species are formed. And this is called the special theory of evolution, and can be demonstrated in certain cases by experiments, the guy says. Now we say exactly the same thing, but we use different language. We say there is variation within certain species. So as far as that's concerned, we may use different language, but we talk about the same thing to a degree. Okay? Now, then there's, for example, the peppered moth is a famous experiment. They say the peppered moth beautifully demonstrates natural selection or survival of the fittest in action. But they don't show evolutionary progress, for however many populations of different coloured moths you end up with, you still end up with a moth. It doesn't change into an eagle or an elephant, which over time it ought to. Okay? And that's their big problem, and that's where we differ. We're quite happy to say moths change, moths can vary, and certainly in some situations, because of the variations, they have a better chance of survival than other things. We're saying exactly the same thing as the evolutionists, but then they say this happens because of chance, and we are saying no, it's built into the design. And that's the
They say that one species can change to another.
That's right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Moth isn't done into an eagle,
Still,
or isn't done into an elephant.
we say it's still a moth, but they don't.
That's right. And even the evidence that they have shows it's still say the moth. They can have all sorts of different colours of moth at the end of the day, but it's still with moths.
Yeah.
All the moths remain moths from beginning to end. Biston Bacteria, Introduction to Centennial Edition, Origin of Species, okay? By the Sten and Sons. So, we would then talk about there's a theory that all living forms of the world, now this is the real crux of the matter, all living forms of the world have arisen from a single source, which itself came from an inorganic form, either gas or rock. To go back right to the Big Bang, they talk about the beginning of the Big Bang, mainly two major gases are involved, and then everything else develops from that. So even at the gas stage, you haven't even got a rock stage, and you've got to get a rock stage, then you get something in the ocean comes from the rocks and stuff like that, and then you get from that one inorganic form, you get every other form.
So every living thing came from something that's dead.
That's correct.
According to that.
According to that. And that's, I use an illustration all the time. If I'm talking to somebody in the home about this kind of thing, usually it's over a cup of tea, and I basically say, here's this cup. This cup is an inorganic form. And you say that given enough time, and I'll give you 500 million years, that cup will turn into a tea set. As a matter of fact, in 500 million years' time, that cup should turn into a butler that brings the tea. Never mind just the tea set. Okay. Now, their own science, the second law and the third law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, says if you leave that cup lying around for 500 million years, you're going to end up with a heap of dust. Because it breaks down. It doesn't come into a tea set or a compendium of cutlery or any butler to bring the stuff in. It doesn't get that far. It actually goes the opposite way, and it decays and destroys. And that's what we say is the reality. And they say, no, that cup, that inanimate object, ultimately will turn into something animate.
So
and I think they've got a problem. All right.
Got a problem too.
And that's where we differ. Okay. and that's a simple illustration using a simple thing that everybody sees. It doesn't work. Okay, a guy called Theodosius Dostoevsky. He said evolution comprises all the stages of development of the universe: the cosmic, the biological, the human, or cultural developments. Life is a product of the evolution of inorganic nature, and man is a product of the evolution of life. So basically saying the same thing. We came from either gas or rock, and now into a complex human being. He says that's science. Right? We say that's stupidity. That's okay. Encyclopedia Americana says evolution from the primordial life through unicellular to multicellular organisms, invertebrate to vertebrate animals, and ultimately to man. That's what they're arguing, okay? And that's what we need to understand, because this is what 80% of the people that you talk to on a daily basis in the streets of Corby, this is what they believe. The problem is they don't understand
They don't know
that
why
this is what they believe. Okay? They just assume because David Bellamy says it or Brian Cox says it, that it works. They don't realise that this is really what they're saying. Okay? So, Chief Justice Requisite and Justice Scholar, we have no basis on the record to conclude that creation science needs to be anything other than a collection of scientific data supporting the theory that life abruptly appeared on the earth. Okay, that's a guy, quite famous guy, in a case. Indeed, the only competing explanation for the order we all see in the biological world is the idea or the notion of special creation. Now here's the real crux of the matter. He says, ideologically, we either come from nothing and became man, or we were created. That's the only two options you got. The problem is, for a lot of these people, the idea of us believing in God is a step they don't want to go through. Creation and evolution between them exhaust the possible explanations for the origin of living things. Organisms either appeared on Earth fully developed, or they did not.
Yes, I once heard a professor say the only reason we accept evolution is not that it's proved or is provable,
Yeah.
but because the only alternative, special creation, is clearly unthinkable.
There you are. See, that's, again, it's an
That's what
ideological. And that's why evolution in its real form, even in those books of science, it isn't, it's a religion. It's a belief system.
That's right, it is.
And a lot of people who believe it say, no, no, it's science. You've got a belief system, we've got science. And that's the problem. They don't see that evolution isn't scientific. It uses a scientific cloak. They use science to cloak it, but in actual fact, it is a theology, a faith. Okay? And that's what we need to be able to help them to understand. If they did not, they must have developed from pre-existing species from some process of modification. If they didn't appear in fully developed state, they must have been created by some omnipotent intelligence. Science on Trial, page 169, 1983. So we need to distinguish between creation and evolution debates. Creationist, this is an atheist speaking, okay? He says, creation and evolution debates. Creationists travel all over the United States visiting college campuses and staging debates with biologists, geologists and anthropologists. The creationists nearly always win. He says, when we think that creationists are uneducated, Bible-thumping clods, these are soon routed by a steady onslaught of direct attacks on a wide variety of scientific topics. So we say creationists think, oh, we'll take them on, oh yeah, we'll debate them. They're idiots, they're Bible bashers.
Yeah.
But a lot of the creationists come in and they have got the facts at their fingertips and they make the biologist, the zoologist, the anthropologist look stupid because they can't answer the questions.
I can give you one reason why evolution is absolutely impossible, and they never face it.
Go on.
That every living organism is a construction of cells, and every cell has its own mitotic pattern. Which means that a cell is motion, and every living thing is composed of cells. If you interfere with the cell of that particular creature, you destroy it. Nature rebels against it. Once the cellular pattern is broken, you try to change it, you get something that's abnormal. It will not change. You cannot change one species to another because each species has its own mitotic pattern built into the creature itself. And once you interfere with that pattern, it dies.
This is the problem I have with
they can't get over that.
This is the problem I have with like Dolly the sheep and stuff like that. I mean, they're playing with genetics at the moment to bring out these type of things. And some of them are reasonably successful, but as you said the other day, and this is my note somewhere, usually the end product is sterile. They have difficulty in actually making breed because it's lost. Normal, for example, like a mule. You know, you can't put two mules together. You've got to go back and get a couple of others to make a mule. So, and it's even, I don't know how accurate this is because this is going through my back of my brain somewhere, okay? Something I picked up years ago. There are something like 39 different types of lettuce, but you can't get a 40th because it's at the edge of its genetic makeup, and you can't reproduce after that. And the same thing with some roses are hybrids. You've got to plant them in something else to make them grow. Apples, some apples are the same, but plant them in something else to make them grow. So it's difficult. They can't breed on themselves. They need external stimulus. So creationists today, at least the majority of the spokesmen, are highly educated, intelligent people, skilled debaters. They have always done their homework, and then they always seem better informed than their opponents, who are reduced too often to a bewildered state of incoherence. Creationists have been very successful of late in converting student followers, having favourable rules adopted by local school boards, even getting legislation passed by state legislators. Okay? And his conclusion is, stop debating them.
Yeah.
Okay? Scientists should refuse formal debates. Okay? Because they do more harm than good. But scientists still need to counter the evolutionist creation method. Okay? He says, stop debating it, you'll lose. and you make it look stupid. So therefore, stop debating them. Now there are exceptions to that. I mean, there are some very able evolutionary scientists, evolutionary debaters who regularly take on creationists, and sometimes the creationists are made to look stupid, but not always. And in most cases, it's the other way around. All right.
Christians have only lost the debate because they've not been properly prepared.
Usually, that's the case.
That's all.
I remember listening. I've got a few debates on the computer, which I could have shown you.
Yeah.
Anyway, the one guy, he if he'd stuck to his notes and he stuck to what he knew, he would be fine.
Yeah, that's right.
But one person in his audience, I remember this guy, I thought he should have said, "I don't know." Instead of that, he tried to say he didn't know, or tried to make up something, and you could see he was trying to make it up. One student in his audience says, "Why have men got nipples?" You know, and instead of saying,
I don't
know, he tried to waffle and make some sort of reason why, but you could see he was trying to think off the top of his head. He hadn't researched it, hadn't thought about it. First time he'd had to come across the question, and instead of saying, "I don't know, but I'll try and find out," he tried to waffle the thing. And that was the weakest part of his whole debate, okay? Which is a shame, really. Anyway, Darwin's view, origin of species introduction, a fair result can be obtained only by fully stating and balancing the facts and arguments of both sides of each question. That's Mr. Darwin says. Now this guy, John Ward, given enough time, remember time plus chance equals, given enough time, 2 billion years, the impossible becomes possible, the possible becomes probable, the probable becomes certain, time performs the miracle.
And that's a speculation too.
Exactly. Okay. This is a scientist who says it's a miracle. Okay. If we've got enough time, we can do it. Okay. It's interesting that many of those who believe in the general theory of evolution recognize it would take a miracle to make it happen, but at the same time claiming they don't believe in miracles.
That's right.
All right. So they're not consistent. All right. Michael Roos, evolution is promoted by its practitioners as more than mere science. Evolution is promulgated as an ideology, a secular religion, a fully fledged alternative to Christianity, with its meaning and morality. Evolution is a religion. This is true of evolution in the beginning, and is still true of evolution today. That's in 2000, the National Post. And the law of that, this is an interesting one. A federal court of appeals ruled yesterday in Wisconsin prison officials that Wisconsin prison officials violated an inmate's rights because they didn't treat atheism as a religion. Atheism is this inmate's religion. And even though it expressly rejects a belief in the Supreme Being, the Second Court of Appeal said that it was a religion. So he was saying these Christians, they have their days off, they have their time and special times because it's a religion. Well, he says I want special. I want the same kind of treatment because I'm an atheist. And the High Court judge said, I agree.
Well,
you should have it. It is a religion. Okay?
But you know, the psalmist said, "The fool has said in his heart, there's no God."
God.
So he's got April Fool's Day.
Okay. Now, these figures vary because it depends on the year. It depends on practically every week you hear a new claim for a new amount of time. Okay. But basically, they were saying 4.5 billion years ago, the young planet Earth was almost completely engulfed by the shallow primordial sea. Powerful winds gathered random molecules from the atmosphere. Oh, where did they come from? Anyway, some were deposited in the seas. Tides and currents swept all the molecules together, and somewhere in this vast ocean, the miracle of life began, it says. Okay? The first organized form of primitive life was a tiny protozoa, a one-celled animal. Millions of protozoa populated the ancient seas. These early organisms were completely self-sufficient in their sea-water world. Go on there. They moved about their aquatic environment, feeding on, just a minute, what did he say before that? He said these early organisms were completely self-sufficient in their sea-water world, and yet they also needed to feed on bacteria and other organisms. Just a minute. There's a problem here somewhere. Okay? Contradiction, see? But that's the problem they have all the time. These simple one-cell, I put in the word simple because that's what I used to say, these simple one-celled organisms evolved onto all the life on Earth, from the Emmy Award-winning Novia film, The Miracle of Life, in 1998. Question: if they were the first, where did the bacteria and other organisms they were feeding on come from? Interesting question. Okay? Well, we'll stop here because we're going to get into a bit technical stuff and we're going into a bit of time. Okay. But basically, we're basic building blocks of life. They talk about amino acids, talk about proteins, and they talk about nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. And Frank will tell you the cleverest
Lots of human beings just like that.
Yeah. Some of the cleverest things to believe are crows. Crows are absolutely marvellous. Matter of fact, Susan saw one less than 6 weeks ago. We put out some bread and it was really, really hard. It was on the table at the top. And this crow came along and it picked up a big chunk of bread. And about 3 foot further over on the ground was a water tray. It flew down, it put the bread in the water, it left it there, and then when it felt it was done, it actually then took the bread and it shot on it.
Marvellous.
Amazing.
You think it's thought that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting how they work that. In crows, they've done experiments in a university in, I can't remember which state in America.
Massachusetts.
But one of the things was, there was a couple of anthropologists working on crows and studying the habitat. And they actually took them and captured them and put rings on them and stuff. From that point on, not only did those crows recognize the guys who put them under stress, but every other crow, as soon as they came onto the campus, every other crow either dive-bombed them or gave them a hard time. And the only way that they then could walk around campus is they would actually put on masks, and the crows didn't recognize them. So how did the crows that weren't captured and weren't put under stress aware that the guys who were the bad guys were those two guys on campus? And they actually went back over a period of 5 years, did all sorts of experiments with them, and the crows are absolutely, and if you look on YouTube, well, if you ever get internet, if you look on YouTube, there's loads of really clever things that these, they set up really complex things for the crows to do. The other thing in the sea world is
Dolphins.
no, octopus.
Oh, right.
They're phenomenal. All sorts of problems, challenges, and these things will figure them out.
Well, what about the
Absolutely.
squirrels are the same.
Squirrels, yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Well,
So, I
they
mean,
still remain squirrels, mind you.
this is the problem. At the end of the day, I mean, we're talking about certainly a design thing within them that is very, very clever. But we'll come back to some of that.